And thank you for coming, and thank you for covering our budget debate. Allow me to respond on all those issues that are political and administratively. I would allow them to come in. But looking at the questions that were raised, it seems as if they are all administratively. So the HOD will respond on the issue of who is the main service provider. I'm not involved in procurement processes, so allow me to give him the opportunity. Then on the second one, then finally, on the issue of special schools, indeed we do have a challenge, but you would have noticed that in our policy statement, we made the reference to some of the new special schools that we are building as a department. So we try to cover all the areas, but due to budget constraints, we can't reach all the districts. But again, on that one, the infrastructure DDG will touch on it. Let me allow HOD to touch on the issue of NSNP.
Thank you very much, MEC and good day, colleagues. Let me just, in brief, start off by outlining the reasons why we opted for that process of bulk buying, and where SMMEs, that is, the suppliers, would acquire food from in order for them to take it to the schools. Essentially, it was because of the matter of rising food prices and the strain that the rising food prices was having on our budget, and also on the delivery and on the sustained delivery of nutritious foods to our learners. In the previous method of buying, suppliers would buy food themselves and then go provide at the schools. And because of the fluctuating food prices, the suppliers themselves found themselves with difficulty, when food prices rose, when we as a department did not add any money to their earnings if food prices rose. So we opted to get a service provider who will buy in bulk and who will negotiate prices that are going to remain fixed for the duration of our contract with that service provider, so as to ensure sustainability of the program derived from the economies of scale. When you buy in bulk, and when you pre-order things, you buy them at the price at which they cost at a particular time, and the service provider will negotiate that those prices remain fixed, which small service providers on their own would not be able to negotiate, and therefore they were subject to those the hardships arising from the prices that kept on going up, prices of food in particular. Now, coming to your question, which service provider was appointed and why were they appointed, or were they the only ones? In terms of SCM processes, supply chain management processes, the tender was advertised calling for all suppliers or entities that believed they could deliver on the specifications that were outlined in the tender advertisement. A number of companies, a number of entities applied, and the processes were followed. The processes starting with the bid evaluation committee, which is a committee in terms of SM processes that evaluates all bids, that department or any government department advertises. The bid adjudication committee looked at all the applicants in terms of their capacity to deliver whatever they had, and in terms of whether they met the requirements that were advertised in the bid. And they came up with a service provider that ticked all the boxes in terms of the advertised requirements. And they followed the processes, for example, processes of going to check the functionality of that service provider. The evaluation committee did that. They went to check the warehouse, where this would be, where the bulk supplies would be held, and they were satisfied as a bid adjudication committee that that service provider would deliver. That service provider's name, if you wanted the name, is Asina Retail. It's not a secret, because after the processes have happened and the bid adjudication committee has recommended, we publicize that information that we intend appointing this entity to do this job. So it's public knowledge that the entity that got the tender is called Asina Retail. They came to us, to make a presentation about their state of readiness, and we were satisfied that they were ready. In terms of their presentation, really, we felt that they were ready after they had been awarded. Although we were concerned by the fact that when they were added, they only had about a month to actually prepare, because there were objections and so on, which are normal in a process like that. But they came and presented and said they were ready to deliver on Tuesday, which was the day before schools would be opened, on Wednesday last week. As it is now public knowledge, it didn't happen, to our disappointment as a department. But from that point onwards, we've never really slept, ensuring that the situation is rescued, to the extent that at least 90% of our schools today have the food. Where there are complaints, for instance, if the food is not enough, they are attended to, because we now monitoring the situation closely with the service provider, and we are working on ensuring that learners, the majority of learners still don't have meals today. I mean, not the majority, but there are still schools that don't have meals. Who are working all out to ensure that situation is rectified. But at least the majority of schools are being fed. The other thing that we did was we communicated with our schools, even on that first day when schools reopened, to say to our schools, now that this has happened, we are giving them, a leeway to use food that was there, that it remained in the first term, without even considering what the menu of the day is, because each day has a particular menu. So we said to them, we're giving you leeway to cook what is there, irrespective of what the menu for the day is, as long as learners did. And many schools did have food that is remained in the last term, and they actually cooked the food as we had instructed. We are constantly in touch now with these service providers, but so that we don't get another question as to what are you going to do and so on about them for having failed to deliver. Administratively, we are guided by the agreement that we have with them. So we are going to put them into terms in terms of the agreement that we have with them. Yesterday I had a meeting with them, and I spelled it out to them that today they will be receiving a letter from me, putting them into terms to say, in terms of our contract, you are in breach of this clause, that clause, that clause, that clause, and then quote the service level agreement in terms of what it says should happen in a situation like that, and put them into those terms. The service level agreement actually says if the service provider is in breach of contract, then as a department we must bring that breach to their attention and give them an ultimatum to rectify whatever has to be rectified, and time frames within which they must rectify it, failing which we look at harsher measures, including and not limited to penalties or cancellation of the contract. So I think I will end there at this particular moment.
Thank you. Maybe to add, there is another issue that gave us a challenge, the issue of business forums, and those who are disgruntled that they did not get the work to proceed with what they've been doing in the past 3 years. I think those are also some of the factors that put us where we are. Then on the issue of the special schools, who is the Castro?
Thank you, Fanele. We have about 25 special schools in the province, and the majority of those have hostels. And the special school that did not have hostels is Amajuba, which is YWCA, and the MEC spoke about that in her speech. And the department has started building that hostel. We're about 95%. You can go to Majuba, we see a beautiful hostel that is built by the department. So this school that did not have a hostel, which we are just about to finish. And we're upgrading other hostels in special schools where we need more rooms, like Lotongati special school, literally we're about to finish. And we finished the new one, which is catering for Inanda, Ramashu, and Tuzuma area, which is another special school with big hostel. Even today, we have not utilized this hostel in full capacity. And we finished another one with hostel facilities in Kodela, and other plans that we have were contained in the budget speech, where we're planning to build new special schools with hostel in Zululand and in Umzinyathi district. But we are attending to the issue of hostels. Thanks.
Is there any other? You and the panel.
No, it's not true. It's not true. The IFP is lying. Let me start by correcting Honorable Cowan that there is no Sunday zone. There is no Sunday zone. I don't know where he got that name from. And fortunately enough, anyone can just go and check this personality and check who the owner is. I mean, if he had said this outside the house, he was gonna pay because he used somebody's name wrong. It's not, it's definitely not. So, there's nothing like that. That's the first one. The second one, if he's talking about the connection, politically connected, I don't understand what is it that he was talking about. Again, it's not true. That is the second one. Then the third one, if they are saying we are going to be using this money for campaign household, because there are systems in the department, how are we going to take the money for food? then campaign with. If the IFP does that, unfortunately it doesn't go that way with the ANC. I don't know where he got that from. Now I understand, maybe this is the reason why our people in Lund were blocked. I'm not sure. It seems as if there is an agenda in their quest for 2024. This is now happening. I mean, everything that they are saying, it makes us to think that they are involved. Because even in the issue of those who claimed to be business forums, you can't prove it because we did not check them. If at some stage we saw IFP people blocking people, it's clear that they might be involved. But again, ours as the department is to make sure that the learners of KwaZulu-Natal get food. That is where my focus is. With all these political things they are saying, it's for them, not for the ANC. We are clear we have a responsibility in ensuring that the learners in KZN are getting food. And we are going to achieve that.
Thank you. Just to take the towards follow-up question on consequences. I did mention that our agreement, our service level agreement with the entity concerned states what should happen should there be a breach of contract in terms of whatever part of the contract, because a breach may be a breach because somebody has not delivered on A, B, C, and so on, which is in the contract or has not done what is in the contract. So the service level agreement specifies what should happen, and like I was saying, it says we must put them into terms. In other words, raise this breach with them, which is what I've said. I've indicated already to them in a meeting we had with them, but I'm following it up with a letter to them now to say you are in breach and the consequences. If you are in breach, the agreement says you must rectify within a particular time the problems that we have. Of course, they've started already rectifying because they wouldn't wait for us because we've been engaging. The letter that I'm writing is not the first time that we are bringing this to their attention. We've been having engagements throughout, and that's why they've rectified some of the things that they were in breach of. But I'm still going to write to them and warn them of the consequences should they not fully comply within the period specified in the SLA. So there are consequences, and they're spelled out in the service level agreement. The next question is, did we have a meeting or did we consult or inform the service providers when we were changing the system? I think what needs to be explained here is that this is a new approach, and the new service providers that were appointed 1st of April applied to a bid that was advertised that had specified that successful bidders are going to use this approach. So it's not an approach that we changed in the middle of the previous suppliers' contracts. We didn't change the rules in the middle. We waited until the end of the contract of the previous suppliers and then applied this approach for suppliers who had applied for the tender knowing that this is how it was going to be done. So if anyone says in the past this is what was happening, that past was when the service providers whose contracts ended on 31st March was in place. So these ones applied knowing that this is, and even their letters of award are actually confirming what they applied for, that the way of procuring food would be via this central supplier, which, as I've explained, was for the economies of scale. The rate is lower it's true. But the reason why the rate is lower is that the money that we give them, they don't have to buy food anymore. They don't have to buy food anymore. They collect food already sourced by this supplier, and the department just pays that supplier to source food, negotiate prices for them, and all they do now is simply go and collect food to supply it to the schools. Whereas in the past, the money that we gave them, they had to use it to actually buy food, and of course make a profit, out of when they sold the food. So it's true that what they are getting now is less, but it is less because they don't have to buy food from the less that they get. They don't pay for food. The department pays for food, separately, and they just go and collect food. Then the long distances, I think the question of long distances, I think that's a good question. One of the requirements, the clauses in that bid was that the service provider will have nodal points all over, points where food is collected closer to the clusters, and closer to the clusters, and this is going to be rectified. It's part of the things that are being rectified, because it is indeed unfair for somebody from Nkandla to travel to Mbangeni to collect. That is being sorted. For example, as an example, in Nkandla, the service provider, in terms of our agreement, actually has those connection points in all these places. It's just that they are indicating that they had logistical problems, which of course is an issue that we are taking them to account for. The only thing that has, the only reason why I'm saying we are now we've been meeting with them, we're now going to be putting things in writing, is that we spend a lot of our time, instead of trying to accuse, the service provider, arguing with them as to why you do this. We spend all our time, all our energy, all our efforts in ensuring that food is delivered to the schools. And now that food is, and that area is stable. We're dealing with those complaints, for example, food is not enough and so on. We're dealing with them. But of course, we will, once we know that all our learners are being fed and so on, we will concentrate on consequences for this. That is why we are starting, of course, or we've already started to put them on terms in relation to this.
Thanks, colleagues.
Sorry. And then the last one is, in terms of the roles of food, we see the people that bring food to schools, then it's not saying some of it is really reaching that it's expiring dates. So what are you doing to mitigate against that? Because people are going to be required, but it's not enough for the kids.
Yes. I think maybe we have to clarify the issue of the warehouse. The bid that they want says you must have one big central warehouse, and then have delivery points, where you deliver to. But the central warehouse is one, and that is what we went and checked, check stock and so on and so on. But the question of food reaching delivery points, which are 59 in terms of the service level agreement, scattered all over the province. That is where again they failed to deliver to all those nodal points. And the nodal points in which they are now delivering, it was in the main our own initiative to try and ensure that at least food is being delivered. But the decentralization to other nodal points, is being attended to, and they have indicated to us that in the next delivery will actually be according to our service level agreement, that they will be delivering to those nodal points. As we speak, we have a team of our people who are meeting, the service provider, and we instructed that they must meet in this warehouse of the service provider. So that part of being there is also to check whether the stock is there, how much of it now is there, and is it according to the service level agreement, to check the quality of some of these things, because the issue of quality was a problem even with the previous suppliers, and one of the reasons why we are opting for this is so that we have one source that is accountable. Because with the previous system, if for instance there was let's say, to give an example, there was food poisoning, it was always going to be difficult to identify the source, because service providers were buying everywhere, but now with this situation, we are able to say this food is of low quality, and you are the one who sourced it for us wherever you sourced it from. This food has reached its expiry date, and so on. And all those things are part of our service level agreement to say you are going to serve us food that we have directed that you serve, you stock, and it's going to be of good quality, and it's going to meet the standards that have been approved by dietitians, both at DBE and so on. But so far we have not had any cases of expired food. We have seen in social media pictures of vegetable cabbage in particular. But the interesting thing about one of these pictures is that it gets duplicated many times. You see it here, and I asked, let me see, which school is this? And the one who had sent it told me the name of the school. Then the same picture was sent by someone else. I asked him which school was this, but it was exactly the same picture. The school now was different, but the picture was exactly identical with the other picture that I had. But we are not saying that there were no rotten vegetables, because we take that seriously. If you serve rotten vegetables, that's not in our contract. We are taking that up with the service provider, checking where they source those and whether indeed these pictures are reflecting exactly what they do.
Thank you. Well, colleagues, we have to close.